It can be wherever you want it. So anyway, if you get here early. I want to get off. That's why I get here. But sit right there, I'll move it. Well, I'll get send it to you. Perfect. Go ahead, sit right there. Mayor, how are you, dude? Good. Evening. Board of Supervisors. Good morning, sir. How are you? Yeah, that's great. Yeah. That's Rose. I must be this one. BCAG. Right next to my favorite supervisor. Well, you guys realize you sit on the right side of the podium unless you're in the audience. Right through 5-0. So I think you guys are needing that. I don't know if you ever know that, I actually never interviewed. All right. I did, Scott and I. I have it right here. Yeah.
Like all of us do, and ups and downs and whatever, but.
Yeah, we have our differences at one point, but, you know, it's very.
Oh, get my previous.
Our jacket killed the budget. Different ways to run.
It's getting there.
Different backgrounds.
Yeah, you know, I feel like the MHSA thing.
You know, I.
Boss is gone today, huh?
Yeah.
How's it feel?
Feels like me.
He's back, huh? Andy's back. Any errors or changes, missions to the,
So I was there for about 3 years. Yes, the people they hired.
one for the new record?
Chairs.
Yeah, it's great. They could call it chairs.
And then all the.
We gotta go to my daughter's,
Other agencies.
8th grade graduation, so, yeah, everybody's here.
In providing services that were not.
Like a past contract.
Yes. So anyway, I was there on for 3 years. That was the.
Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Board of Directors meeting of May 25th, 2023. That's a BCAG Board of Directors. Please join me in a salute to the flag for nation. Ready, salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Board Member Connolly,
Here.
Board Member Durfee.
Here.
Board Member Ritter. Here. Board Member Kimmelshue.
Here.
Board Member Teeter.
Here.
Board Member Knuckles.
Here.
Board Member Reynolds. Board Member Calderon.
Here.
Board Member Pittman.
Here.
Board Member Chidon.
Okay, at this time, the consent agenda is up. Would any board member like to pull an item from the consent agenda? Any public comment on the consent agenda? Any
No.
public comment on anything electronically? I don't want to ask again. Nobody wants to pull anything, I'll entertain a motion. Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, items for action 6, approval to advertise and authorize executive director to negotiate and award construction contract for the Paradise Transit Center. Andy.
Morning, Board. Thanks for being here today. This is a project, Paradise Transit Center. It's been around for a couple of years. Fire came through. We did that on hold. We were able to do of 22. November of 2022, we brought the consultant back on board, Mark Thomas and Company, Sacramento, finished the plans, specifications, completing the construction documents right now. So our intent is to put the project out for advertisement live, and then hopefully we're able. We do have, I'm pretty confident we have enough funds available. Bids do come in high, and that has been happening on some of the local projects. We will hold up and bring that. open and so, right now, all we really need is for the Division of Rail and Mass Transit through Caltrans approval to advertise. That is not necessary. After the board approves the advertisement, action item today, that'll be our push, is to get it out. So, the item is for authorizing the executive director to do the advertisement.
Questions or comments by board members? Any public comment on this matter? Entertain a motion.
Second?
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously. Number 7, Butte Regional Transit B-Line, third quarter report. Victoria.
Board, I apologize for the late edit to this item. We didn't have, all of the data in for. Staff is presenting key financial and operating data for Butte Regional Transit for the third quarter of fiscal year 22-23. The attached tables represent a summary of key financial and operation results for Butte Regional Transit. Financial data representation compares third quarter results to the annual budget and to the prior year. Operations tables represent a performance-based assessment in comparison to the same quarter of the prior fiscal year. The measures of revenue, expense, ridership, vehicle revenue hours, and passengers per vehicle revenue hour are broken down by the 4 types of service, fixed route and paratransit, with each differentiate into urban and rural. This separation helps to define where improvements are needed and or issues are taking place. Farebox ratios for the quarter are presented for reference only, as only annual ratios are required for the Transportation Development Act compliance. Accidents and complaints, gauging safety and customer satisfaction, are analyzed for the system as a whole. Lack of riders continues to be an issue in meeting the annual farebox recovery previously mandated by the TDA, 10% for rural fixed, rural paratransit, and urban paratransit, and 20% for urban fixed. However, in July 2021, California AB 149 was passed that extended the previous TDA exemption from the farebox requirement through the current fiscal year of 22-23. It also changed the definition of local funds to allow any non-state funding as part of the farebox ratio. This change now allows federal support to be included as farebox, which will effectively eliminate the risk of farebox shortfall, as federal support is historically at least 35% of our budget. Federal pandemic relief funding continues to help cover lost fare revenues. For the purpose of this report, farebox coverage is still shown as a percentage of fares to total operating expense to illustrate the amount of federal and state subsidies. So this graph, which we included a large copy at the end of this memo if you wanted to take a closer look at it, shows the ridership trends. The blue line up top is the total fixed route ridership. The red line that very closely mimics that is our Chico ridership for urban fixed route. The green line that hovers down at the bottom is our rural fixed route, and then the purple line at the very bottom is what our total paratransit ridership is. So you can see the trend from October 2021 to current day. It shows the expected January uptick in ridership, and that's in line with the start of the semester at Butte College and Chico State. Chico State ridership still makes up an average of 30% of B-Line users, so it's expected that peak ridership would occur when in-person classes are in session. A larger version of the graph, as I said, is available at the bottom of at the end of the memo. Rural fixed route fares are covering 11.1% of operating costs. Ridership has increased 5.7% compared to the prior year's quarter. Passenger fares were 84% of the annual budgeted projection. Expenditures were in line with the budget expectations of 73% of the annual budget through the third quarter. Urban fixed route fares cover 11% of operating costs. Ridership increased 17.8% compared to the prior year's quarter. Passenger fares were 98% of the annual budgeted expectation, which just shows a greater recovery than we anticipated when we were creating that budget. Expenditures were in line with budgeted expectations at 76% of the annual budget through the third quarter. Rural paratransit fares covered 7.1% of operating costs. Ridership decreased by just under 1% compared to the prior year's quarter. Passenger fares were 74% of the annual budgeted expectations, and expenditures were lower than the budgeted expectations at 58% of the annual budget, due to lower than anticipated service hours. The efficiency of the system was 2.8 passengers per revenue hour for the quarter, which is within expectations. Urban paratransit fares were 8.2% of operating costs. Ridership increased by 17.4% for the quarter. Passenger fares were 75% of annual budgeted expectations. Expenditures were lower than budget expectations at 66% of the annual budget due to lower than expected service hours. Efficiency for this system was 3.1 passengers per revenue hour, which is the same as our pre-pandemic goal. Overall, there were five preventable accidents in the quarter with just over 100,000 miles driven. And there was 360,000 miles driven, sorry. And there was one valid complaint in the quarter, which is well within reason for the total number of passengers served. Are there any questions?
Questions or comments by board members?
I have one question for you. When you're looking at the urban paratransit, in the third quarter, it shows that it was up by 17%. Is that 17% from where it was down 5% the second quarter?
So that's really just based off of like who's riding it and how many rides are being taken. Both of those numbers are still drastically down from before COVID. And if you look at that page, if you look at the chart here, it's down here, it's the fourth bullet. You'll see that we're not talking about more than 1,000 or 2 rides for 3 month period. So it's not.
So that's not a drastic, because when I see something's up 17%, that seems significant, but you're saying that it's not a very significant number?
The number of rides that we're currently providing on paratransit is so small that a small change looks drastic.
Got it. Thank you.
Other questions or comments by board members?
I've got a comment since we're talking about Beeline. Many of you may not remember, but I think the last meeting we talked about the electric buses. I had said something about we need to get some publicity on this. And, I didn't mean right away, but after that meeting, it wasn't a week later, it was on the front page of the paper. So, Andy and Sarah, I don't know if you guys had anything to do with that, but it was a great article. And, I think it was good for all of us to see that. So well done.
It was good timing, and it stemmed from that item that we talked about here. And it is a big deal for us to try to bring transit into where technologies are available without losing legacy riders, particularly the elderly, a little differently, and put a public transit system out there in a very rural, more of a rural area, and try to attract some ridership that typically.
Great. So thank you for that.
Any other board comments on regional Beeline quarterly report? Any public comment? All right. Next up is public comment on items not on the board. You cannot take action on them, but you're welcome to speak. Anyone? See you here, John. Good to see you. Good morning.
Thank you. Is this live? Okay. First, I thank the board for continuing to allow remote public participation. I just thought it was important for me to be here in person because I did not realize that I should have been here for the last meeting when the draft routing plan came out. So I had had correspondence with John Clark in December where he said that my suggestions had been approved by the consultants, and the 40 and 41 would have hourly service up to Lake Ridge, with 2 vans providing microtransit service to connect to the 6 rail. Didn't realize that had been changed without my being informed. So what has actually happened is that in contrast to the non-motorized transportation plan, which said that once Paradise repopulated, which it is doing a great job of, servicing frequency would be increased rather than decreased. It had been 16 trips down and 14 trips up prior to the campfire, which is currently 9 and 9. The plan is to make that 5 and 4, which I think is not the best use of the revenue hours. So I would like to be informed when things like this happen, that I realize that my constituency on the Upper Ridge is not incorporated, and state revenue clawbacks have made that impossible, so we have not earned a seat on this board, but it would be lovely if we received the courtesy of being informed when services are continuing to be taken away from those who have already lost the most. So I made comment in the online workshop. I will be making written comment, and I will be speaking again when the draft plan is finalized and comes before you again. But I just wanted to come down and say, you know, there are people still up there that, because so many services on the ridge have been lost, we have to make more trips into the valley than we did before campfire. Even though there are fewer of us, the need is greater. So please understand that this is a worthy use of the revenue to continue service, at least continue the current level of service to the ridge, rather than curtailing it any further. Thank you.
You know, we cannot take action today, but I'm sure staff will reach out to you. You email in. Okay, maybe we can get him on an email list. All right, any other items from the floor? We're gonna adjourn. The next, meeting will be Thursday, June 22nd, 2023, right here. And that's a 15-minute meeting. Congratulations, great board.